There's a lot more to ReZero's world than you think, and you might already know this if you've watched some of the other videos that other creators have made. However, I'd like to add some of my thoughts to the table, as I feel as though there are some things that are really important when understanding ReZero's world. Today we're going to discuss ReZero's world to confirm the stuff we already know, and theorize further based on other information. Firstly, we're told that the world of ReZero is flat, and at the edges lies a great waterfall. Despite being told this by both Tappe and some of the characters in the story, we have to acknowledge that Tappe's interviews are not watertight, and he's the greatest troll in the world. While also, half the time characters either lie or are misinformed about the topics they're talking about. We almost always have to take what we're told with a grain of salt. The important thing is that the ReZero world seems flat to them, but this is simply impossible for a multitude of reasons. Gravity, for starters, forms planetary objects in the form of a sphere, and it should be understood as an attractive force towards the center of an object. This attraction would make the effects of gravity stronger at the edges of the flat world. But besides that, ReZero's wiki describes the world as being the Ptolemaic or geocentric model of our solar system, which simply doesn't make sense. Both on the account of the ReZero world experiences seasons and moon phases, which on a flat diorama geocentric world for that matter, would be impossible. Plus, for geocentricity, are we simply led to believe that the laws of physics are completely different from our world? Because it goes without saying that the orbit of this type would be impossible given the relative size of the ReZero world, and the size of stars required to initiate fusion. I mean, the sun in the ReZero world is obviously a main sequence star given its color, and it shares the same relative size as in our world. Although we do have to account for things like artistic representation when given the size of the moon, and how it's shown in the show. From that, moving back to the existence of the Great Waterfall, I'd like to take a look at a game that might seem unrelated, but I assure you it's important nonetheless. Satisfactory. Now, if you know this game, you may know that the body of land you play on is surrounded by waterfalls that seemingly fall into the abyss. However, in the game, if you disable the fog, you'll realize that below lies a vast ocean rather than just an abyss. So that's just some food for thought when looking at what ReZero's world may actually look like. Mind you, Tappe states that Reinhardt's view during Arc 5 is a spoiler. So the view of the world from the moon is a spoiler to the main series. Now, before we move on, I'd like to take a little break to request that you subscribe to our channel. It would help us out a lot, and we're going to do a lot more mixed anime video game content in the future. But our main focuses are ReZero and Persona. So if you're a fan of either of those two, I recommend sticking around, because there will be a lot more where that came from. Back to the video. Now it's time to get into the meat of the new information that I want to tackle, namely my ideas on Satella, and the ReZero world's possible relation to Earth. So, funnily enough, we got this information from Mimagao If, or the Gender Bend If story. In this version of the story, Satella is named Luna, which means moon in several Latin languages. Now, this is a bit odd. If you didn't know already, all of the witches, aside from Pandora, are named after asteroids. But I would like to say that Satella's name does keep this trend when we look at the original formation of our moon. Now, our moon, in contrast to all the other moons in the solar system, was formed in a very special manner, which is the reason why it's so large relative to our planet. I mean, it's the largest moon in relation to its planet in the solar system. Now, the moon was formed from the collision of a Mars-sized planetary object that crashed into the Earth. And given the intensity of the impact, it feels as though you could equate this cosmic event to Satella's history of destroying half of the ReZero world. I mean, it's a little hard to wrap your head around, but given Tappe's adoration for astronomy, and its importance within ReZero's story, it may be the reason we're told that Satella destroys half the world, if she represents something like the moon. Moving on, although it's a bit tangential, I'd like to look at something that may seem insignificant, but it comes from Memory Snow. Nearing the end of the OVA, there's a portion where Subaru points out the constellations in the night sky. Now, this is odd. How could Subaru view the same constellations and stars from the ReZero world as he does on Earth. And despite Beatrice correcting him on the North Star, we could trust that Subaru knows his constellations and knows his stars given his name and his adoration for them. Spoiler, and the way he's able to figure out Regulus's power from his name. I can't really make much of it now, but it's important for people to realize and question, how is the world of ReZero and Earth related? There's clearly a connection between the two worlds, but based on my knowledge right now, I can't make too much of it. Tapping in a little further to Beatrice's comment, it's pretty interesting how Subaru points out the North Star, and Beatrice corrects him and tells him it's south. Again, we're looking at the smaller details here, but that does seem pretty important. Nevertheless, we will end there. Thank you for watching. As I said earlier in the video, this channel will be posting a lot more ReZero videos in the future. I may not be the best at analyzing things or putting them into words, but I think I could bring something to the table. If you like how I talk, write, or how I analyze, I recommend subscribing. Thank you.